You're running an apparel brand that is making real serious revenue, which means that you need to change the way that you are making decisions the same way that you did when you were only at $50,000 a year. And today, I want to show you the exact 4-step framework that we use inside the Apparel Founders Board to take apparel CEOs from constant guesswork to actually profitable. The brands that end up surviving in this industry follow this process. The ones who don't. My name is Rachel Erickson, and I've spent years helping hundreds of emerging apparel founders build the financial and operational systems that they need to scale their companies without giving up a single percentage of equity. So let's get right into it. Phase number 1 is to establish your standards. This might sound like a no-brainer because the most profitable apparel brands in the world first establish these standards. But I'm not talking about brand colors and logos. I'm talking about industry-specific operational standards. This is where you ask yourself questions like, who is my customer? What products do I make? What products do I not make? What factories are going to meet my standards? What kind of quality level do I expect? And what selling price point fits my own business model? Because here's what I tend to see over and over and over again. Apparel founders are trying to serve everyone. One month, you're designing a collection for budget-friendly shoppers. The next month, you want to do something in the luxury space. One collection that you create is trend-driven, and the next one is going to be a brand new invention that's performance-driven. Every decision that you make feels like you're starting from scratch because there are no standards set up inside your business. And this is where too many brand owners get stuck. They think that more options creates more opportunity, but in reality, more options just creates more confusion. And that confusion almost always leads to very expensive mistakes. When you establish these kinds of standards, decision-making gets dramatically easier. You stop asking yourself questions like, should we make this? And instead, you start asking yourself, does this fit within our standards and our plan? That is the power of doing standardization work. It doesn't limit your growth. It actually makes growth possible. Now, once you've established those standards, here's where things get really interesting. Because standards might tell you what to do, but financial control is going to tell you whether you can afford to do it. So phase number 2 is to build financial control. And this is the beautiful phase where founders stop running their businesses based on hope, and they start running their businesses based on numbers. And no, I am not talking about obsessing over spreadsheets every single day. I'm talking about having a realistic plan on paper so that you can answer questions like, how much inventory can I actually afford to buy? How much cash does my business need to operate? What growth initiatives make sense right now? And what decisions need to wait? And I love this last question. What does success look like from a financial perspective for the next 1, 3, 5, and 10 years of my business? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most founders build products first and then build their financial plan. But the brands that scale and succeed do the complete opposite. They build that financial plan, that financial control first, and then they create products that fit into the financial plan. Too many brand owners that I talk to are stuck in this phase. They have a great idea, a new product, a new collection, a new category, a new opportunity. I'm a victim of it myself. I get shiny object syndrome all the time. So I know what it feels like to have every good idea feel like the right idea. But because I have a financial roadmap, I know that every decision that feels good isn't necessarily the right decision for the business right now. Every decision that we make has a cost. For example, one of our members, Michelle, came to us with a very different idea for where she thought her money needed to go in her brand new apparel company. But before she fully designed and developed her products, she joined the Apparel Founders Board and worked with us on her financial plan. What we discovered completely surprised her. There were over $50,000 worth of expenses that she was planning for that actually weren't necessary. Think about that for a second. She didn't figure out how to make an additional $50,000. She kept herself from losing it. And I think that's one of the biggest mindset shifts that founders really need to make. Sometimes the fastest path to profitability isn't making more sales. It's making better decisions before the money even leaves your bank account. That is what phase 2 and financial control gives you. It gives you the confidence to make decisions proactively instead of reacting and putting out fires after the consequences show up. But even with standards built and financial control put in place, a lot of founders still hit a wall. Because while knowing what to do and knowing if you can afford it are two very different things, the next challenge that you will face is also figuring out how to build systems that allow the business to execute consistently. And that's why phase 3 is to install industry systems. This phase is where founders start to say that everything starts to click. Because here's some harsh truth. Having a plan and knowing what needs to happen isn't the same as executing it consistently. So this is where our background on building systems comes in. And when I say systems here, I don't mean complicated corporate bureaucracy. I mean having a repeatable way to run your business every single season and every single year. A predictable product development calendar, clear production timelines, forecasting methods, regular planning meetings, line review processes, the decision-making frameworks that make everything feel easier. What we want to teach you is the exact systems that the biggest brands in the apparel industry use every single day. Because here's what we see happen when those systems don't exist. Every day feels like chaos. Every decision feels urgent. Every single launch feels stressful. And every single issue feels like it was a surprise. Without these systems, you, the founder, become the system. And while that might have worked for a while, when businesses grow and become so big that they can't actually function on what's in one person's head, growth will actually start to plateau. And this is where you start to think, maybe I need more employees, better software. How do I conjure magic to make more hours in the day? But all you actually need is just a better operating system. And we have it. We want to give it to you. One of our clients, Matt, described how simple things felt after implementing our industry standard calendars inside his business. He said all of a sudden, it's making the work feel easy. And it wasn't necessarily because the business actually became easier. It was because the chaos had disappeared. His team knew exactly what they were working on. Deadlines became predictable. Meetings became productive. Everyone in that ecosystem was pulling in the same direction. And once they stopped spending all of their energy reacting to problems, they could finally focus on growth. And that was when they generated more income in 1 week than they had in the previous 2 months combined. Because systems create space. And space creates time to make good decisions in your business. Okay, now that we have the standards, we have the financial control, we have the systems, what do we do with it next? Phase 4 inside the Apparel Founders Board is to scale intentionally. By this time, you are finally ready for something that most founders never reach: intentional growth. And here's one of the biggest mistakes that I see apparel CEOs make all the time. They think that growth happens by adding more. But the brands that we see survive for decades don't grow with more product. They grow because they get more strategic about what product they offer. And skipping this step, this phase 4, is what makes over 82% of apparel brands fail within their first 3 years. They assume that their next big breakthrough is something that they haven't created yet. That new product, that new collection, that new idea. But most often, your growth is already sitting right inside your business. You just haven't identified it yet. One of our board members, Julia, as soon as she joined, went through a SKU rationalization exercise with me. And what we discovered in her numbers completely changed her growth strategy. She had one product that was significantly outperforming all of the others. The data was there, the customer demand was there, the opportunity was there, but because she was so focused on everything else happening in her business, she almost completely overlooked it. So instead of creating more complexity for her, Coming out of that meeting, we created more focus. Now she has a strategic roadmap based on what's already working inside her brand and a plan to potentially double her annual revenue this year based on what the market was already telling her. And that is what intentional scaling actually looks like. No more guessing, no more chasing. We are not going to keep throwing products against the wall and hoping that something sticks. We want you to be making decisions based on evidence and hard data. Another one of our members, Virginia, is doing something similar, but with a more long-term vision. Instead of feeling like she needs to react to every customer request or review that comes up, she's right now building a 5-year product roadmap. This is going to be a tremendous help in having her see what products are coming, how those products all fit together as a collection, and she's doing that by listening to what her customers are asking for. Most importantly, what we are helping her build is a realistic development and launch timeline that will allow her to deliver all of these products that she wants to put into the 5-year plan without creating constant chaos inside her business. Because your goal shouldn't really be to sell out just your next launch. Your goal should be to figure out how to survive and thrive for a decade inside this company. Intentional scaling will give you that. It will give you a direction. It will give you the roadmap. It will also give you the confidence to grow because you have a plan. You're not just hoping that things are going to work out for you. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, okay, this all sounds great, but I've heard it before. How do I actually make this stuff happen? We hear from founders all the time saying, I definitely don't have time to do this, and I don't have the money to hire somebody to do it for me. So let me be real with you if this is what you're also telling yourself. The founders with this mindset aren't the kind of founders who are irresponsible. It's not like they don't care. This feeling comes from trying to be very careful about building your business. And I absolutely respect that. But here's what I've learned after years of working with apparel brands. The most expensive thing that founders do is wait. They wait until the inventory problem gets worse. They wait and then the cash flow actually gets tighter and smaller. They wait until they make that super costly mistake and are absolutely certain that they really need help. Unfortunately, by then, the business has already paid a much bigger price. Think about the stories I shared today. Michelle saved $50,000 by budgeting up front. Matt absolutely transformed the way that his team operated because he stopped relying on chaos and started relying on systems. Julia discovered a major growth opportunity that had been sitting inside her business the whole time, and Virginia has stopped reacting and is starting to build her long-term vision. None of those outcomes happened because they worked harder or longer hours. Those results happened because they stopped trying to figure everything out alone. And that's really the question. If you're already running a 6-figure apparel brand, if you're still making major decisions without industry standard practices, and you're still learning your lesson through trial and error mistakes, how much is that actually costing you? Because whether you realize it or not, you are already paying for something. You're either paying for guidance or you're paying for the mistakes. And in my experience, those mistakes are almost always more expensive. So if you are ready to stop trying to figure all this out the hard way, I invite you to come join us inside the Apparel Founders Board. The Apparel Founders Board is our membership for emerging apparel founders and CEOs who are truly serious about building profitable, scalable brands and who don't want to give up equity in their company or continue creating chaos in the process. Instead of staring at spreadsheets, wondering where your cash went, or dealing with the stress of delayed production or inventory mistakes, we help you replace the constant feeling of reacting to your business with predictable control. You get the exact blueprint that you need and our full support to take the guesswork out of scaling your brand. Most founders end up joining the board because of a problem that's irking them right now, something they need to fix today. But they stay because they finally realize that they found a group who can help them build and maintain their system. To date, every single member who has joined has renewed every single month or every single year. Some of our founders are into their second year with us, still learning and growing every single week. We want to give you your system for making decisions, for planning products, for managing growth. We want to give you the system for building a company that doesn't rely on guesswork. This group is for founders who are already generating a little revenue, but know they're capable of so much more. It's for people just like you who are sick of learning all of the ropes by going through trial and error mistakes. It's for founders who want to act like the CEO of an apparel company, not just the creator of a product. If that sounds like something that you've been looking for, you can learn more at thebusinessofapparel.com/join. And whatever you decide, I hope this video gave you a clearer picture of what it looks like to build an apparel brand that lasts. You're closer to it than you think.